One more time. Welcome back, family. It was a good day. It was a good day. It was rather warm. So I was, just enjoying that little weather we had outside. I left some stuff on Facebook as far as the event this evening. What the show was going to entail tonight. So tonight we want to talk about stirring the coffee. We want to talk about stirring the coffee, and we want to use that as a metaphor and relate that to our relationships. The energy that we put out, people can feel our energy. The energy goes where the energy flows. You ever been really upset at somebody, and you've been mad at them, you're frustrated, and then you ended up getting a headache because you were feeling that discord, you was feeling that pull, that negativity, and it just like it morphs itself into something worse. It gets worse. It gets progressively worse. So then if you ever had a really, really good day where things were going well, or you was with some good people, or you was in a good situation, and the longer you stayed in that situation, the better that you felt. It was like a kind of euphoric feeling. You got a light kind of high, if you will. So we know that energy goes where the energy flows. If you give out that negative energy, it's going to morph into something more negative. If you keep that positive mindset, when you keep yourself in positive situations with a positive mindset, then that morphs into keeping us in a good mood and us feeling really, really good. I had when I was working back in Detroit, and I used to go to my barbershop every day. The people that have been watching know that's where this information comes from the hair salon and the barbershop. So I used to go to this gas station every day and go get some coffee. Now, I used to get the cappuccino, right? Now, I really never liked coffee. Just one day I went up there, I got some gas, got a bag of chips. I got this cappuccino. I really liked it. He had this good blend. I don't know what it was he was doing up there. So when I went to get this coffee, I started going so regularly that he would just make the coffee if he wasn't busy, because he knew I was coming in at the same time because I had appointments. So it was like a routine for me because I'm very rigorous about time. I'm very time conscious. So when I was going up there to get that coffee and he started making it for me, I was noticing that, I was going there at the same time getting this coffee, and I only drank coffee on my way to work. So I didn't understand, I said, well, when I get off work, I don't drink coffee. And if I'm not working, I don't drink coffee. So it had became a habit and a routine. So when I was drinking this cappuccino, and I was noticing when I was drinking it, then I started, he changed the brew one day. One day he changed it. So I knew immediately. So when I went back the next day, I said, hey, you changed the cappuccino, you know what you used? And he said, yeah, I did. He said, how did you know? I said, as soon as I tasted it, I knew that it was something different. I don't know if it was sweeter. I don't know what he did. So I took that analogy and I was thinking, while I was trying to put some stuff together, I was thinking about the relationships that we have, and what we go through. And when I had that coffee analogy, over the holidays, we had a couple of forums, and we've been talking to people, a little more extensively. We've been getting them a little more to the core, coming away from the surface. A lot of people, they enjoyed it. They really had a good time with it, and some people wanted to avoid it for different reasons. So going over, having these forums over the holidays, helped us with the research. We gathered some more information. So getting to the point to where I want to start basically just taping everything that I come in. Hey, Wayne, what's going on, big fella? I want to start taping these forums so you guys can start seeing them on YouTube. I can put them on my Clipperdome Chronicles YouTube page, the YouTube Clipperdome Chronicles page. We could take some of these forums and put those videos out there so we can get some more information. And when we say that energy goes where that energy flows, we want to keep that positive mindset. We don't want to go on that negative side because we know that might morph into something more negative. Now, before we get off into the show tonight, before we get to stirring the coffee, I had a call, and somebody was, don't have a misconception about what a man and a woman is. So I want to go back for the people who have heard the show before, if you could bear with me. I want to start back going to what a boy and what a girl is to what a man and a woman is, okay? So I want to go over those definitions so you can understand tonight what we're saying when we say from our research what a man and a woman is. We want to start off, if you're in a relationship and a person meets these requirements, these are titles, these are not ages, these are titles. You can have a 60-year-old little boy, and you can have a 60-year-old little girl. And I want to run it through these definitions, okay? So I want to start with a girl. A girl has to be totally taken care of. She does not understand responsibility, safety. She needs constant assistance. A young lady has to be totally taken care of. She is starting to understand responsibility, safety, and her emotions, and she still needs constant guidance. A woman is a nurturer and a caregiver. She is the first teacher and she is the massive assistant. She has control of her emotions and she is spiritual and she can take care of herself and others. A mature woman is identical to a woman. The major difference between a mature woman and a woman is a mature woman is going to make wise decisions that positively impact her family and her community as a whole consistently. Now we're going to move to a boy. A boy has to be totally taken care of. He doesn't understand safety, responsibility, nor discipline, and he needs constant guidance. A young man has to be totally taken care of as well. He is starting to understand responsibility, safety, and discipline, and he still has to be totally taken care of. A man is a spiritual, mental, and physical responsibility. A mature man, the difference between a mature man and a man is just a mature man is an elevated man. And an elevated man, the mature man puts his priority over his preferences. So now before we get back into the show tonight, what I wanted to do is get into those definitions so we can make sure those are clear, because I was getting some calls. And so when people call me and say man and woman, we have to use those definitions because we can have a 60-year-old girl or we can have a 60-year-old boy. These are titles and stages. These are not ages. So we're going to get into stirring the coffee. So now when we say stirring the coffee, a lot of times we've gotten a cup of coffee and it's hot. And we see the coffee is going to have that brown hue to it, or it could look black. So we could put in a couple of creams and we could put in some sugar. Now, a lot of times when we get that cup of coffee and what we see up front is we just see that cup of coffee and it might look a little brown or it might look a little black. Now, once we take it and we stir that coffee, when we stir that coffee, then that cream starts to blend into the coffee. After we get the cream to blend, and then we might taste it, and it still might not be as sweet as we like it. So when we get to the bottom, because we know that sugar could float to the bottom. So when we stir that sugar up and we blend it into the cream, then we might have the desired coffee that we looking for. So when we're talking about stirring up the coffee, we're using this as a metaphor for our relationships. So when we stirring up that coffee, we know that coffee now is more than just an accessory. It used to be like an accessory maybe to a donut. But now we have coffee houses. We have coffee houses where people go and they sit down and they maybe it's a cafe now. They sit down and do the online thing. They hold meetings there. Now on the coffee is the mainstay. It's a culture. Now also to go with that coffee, you can get a Danish, you can get a donut, you can get a croissant. They have so many different things that they have at these coffee houses now. Coffee is becoming a culture. It's bigger than just a cup with some liquid in it. So now we know also when you go to these coffee houses, now relating this to our relationships, when we go to these coffee houses, you can go and get an espresso, you can get the cafe latte, you can get a shot of this, a shot of espresso. It's a production, okay? So now when we say you can get all these things in this coffee, we're talking about our relationships. Some people like their coffee almost close to boiling hot. Some people like their coffee room temperature. Some people like it in between room temperature and boiling. Some people like iced coffee. Okay, so now we're talking about the preferences of how we like our relationships to run. And then we're going to get into who we like in our relationships. So we're just using the coffee as a metaphor, saying it's very vast. It entails a lot. It's not as simple as just looking at it. Sometimes you got to stir it up. Now, when we stir up this coffee and we want to get the perfect blend and we put that temperature on it, mixing that coffee is gonna teach us how that relationship operates when we stir it up. Once we stir up that coffee that's in our relationships, we have a little turmoil. We have a little discord. Sometimes it gets a little heated. Sometimes it feels like it's a little cold. Maybe that cold coffee. So we have to go through some things with like trials and tribulations in our relationships. So if we on the surface, we know that people, they're really the same on the surface. Most people are the same on the surface, but we get into with like family. We get into that surface space. We get into that confined space, like that cup of coffee, whether it be with family, whether it's somebody that you're living with, whether it's in a relationship. So once you get into that confined space and you get to stirring up that coffee, this could be with your family or your friends. But after these spaces that we begin to stir these situations and circumstances up, this is how we get to know the individual, by being in these confined spaces, by being in this turmoil in these situations. And we get to learn this person from that perspective. Now, this is our cream and our sugar also. This is how we take the temperature. We'll find out how sweet that person could be. We'll find out if that person blends well in that relationship with us. Then we can also take the temperature to see how hot or how cold it could be. It's representative to how we like our spouses. Do we like, as a man, do the fellas like her tall? Do they like her thick? Do they like her slim? Would they take a beautiful body over a beautiful face? Do they need her to be strong and independent? Do they want her to be meek and mild? Do they want her to be spiritual? All these different things that men have their perceptions on how they like their women. Same thing with the ladies. How does the lady like her man? Does she like him light skinned? Does she like him tall? Does she like him short? Does she like him to be rich? Does she want him to be of means? Does she want an educated man? So all of these different things, the sugar and the cream, is just representative of how the woman could want her man. If she wants a shot of espresso, does she want a large? Does she want a cafe latte, or does she want an iced coffee? So when we get into trying to define what we want in these relationships, but we have to know that they're going to get stirred up. Is it going to be a good blend? Is it going to work? Is this going to be something that we want to continue to do for a long period of time? So we use a lot of our staples that we need to make sure that we stick to, get some guidelines and have some rules in place as far as our relationships. So a lot of times, because we don't have any rules, we get with the man or the woman, or we get with the young man or the young lady, and we don't have any boundaries. We don't have any rules. We just coming from the hip, and it's a lot of things that we're not paying attention to. Hey, T. Harden, what's going on? Hey, Duke, what's up, big fella? Hey, I shot that out to you on Facebook. Okay. Hey, Steve, what's going on? So y'all can also call in live at 615. The number is 227-1470. Again, y'all can call in live at if you hear something you like, or if you hear something you don't like, you want to make a comment, you can reach us at 615-227-1470. Now back to trying to put some parameters around our relationships. Trying to get back to having some rules and regulations so that we just don't have two people sitting down with no direction, no goals, and no guidance. We want to make sure that we understand that we can get a lot of knowledge, but a lot of times we need experience to go with that. If you're not as experienced in relationships, maybe you could find you a mentor. Maybe you can find you a life coach. Maybe you could find somebody that's more experienced or have more knowledge. Maybe you can get with an elder, somebody that can help you walk down that path. We used to have Big Mama. We used to have, Uncle Jack. Somebody that was older, granddad, grandma, who could help us give some knowledge and drop those pearls and wisdom to help us through these relationships. We living in this feel good right now society. A lot of people want to feel good right now. They don't want to wait. No delayed gratification. The problem with that feel good right now society is sometimes we have to become uncomfortable to become comfortable. So if we want to work out, we know that if we go to the gym, the first 2 to 3 weeks is going to be really hard. But once we get over that hump, that uncomfortable spot, then we start feeling better. You'll start telling people how good you feel. Your body starts to get used to that routine. You start feeling good. That blood is pumping. So then we start to get, our body is changing because that uncomfortable spot that we used to be in is not giving us comfort. And this is the same thing that we have in our relationships. So we want to look into accountability. Accountability is a staple because a lot of times, by nature, most of our women don't like the accountability piece. So fellas, you have to understand that is just part of the DNA. Not all women, this is just some women. And everybody has an accountability. Hey, Londa, what's going on? Everybody has accountability issues, but then it's to what level? It's how inefficient is that making you if you don't recognize and respect that accountability. So accountability is huge. That's when you go within yourself. That's when you take the time to get to know who you are. Because if you don't know you and you can't be the best you that you could be, you can't expect to walk up to somebody else and have them be everything that you expect out of them if you're not the best you could be. That's accountability. That's taking yourself first. 85% of the things that happen to you is usually your fault. It's coming from your mindset, the situations that you put yourself in, and the people that you deal with. So 85% of those things, if we're being accountable, we can go and put that on us first before we start pointing fingers at somebody else. We want to talk about governing and not controlling. Now, this is a big piece right here. To the ladies, fellas, you have to understand too, the woman, it can look like controlling when you're just trying to govern. So you have to sit down with your woman and you have to help her understand what your job is and see if she agrees that y'all need to do that. Hey, what's up, London? To see if y'all agree that y'all need to do that. Now, fellas, if we get these calls and we, the ladies call, the guys calling. So the ladies are saying, well, he told me he didn't want me to go to Walmart at 10 o'clock at night. Now, ladies, his job is to protect and provide. He is a protector. If something will happen to you at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock coming out that Walmart, the devastation that it would bring on him, the biggest void that he would have is he wasn't on post. He didn't have his boots laced up. He wasn't doing his job protecting you. So now if something happens to you, if you have a father, brother, or some uncles, he's going to have to go answer for that. Why would you let your woman go to Walmart at 10, 11 o'clock at night for no reason at all when she could have waited till the next day, or he could have went for her later on that night? So it's not that he's trying to control you, ladies. If he's a protector, his job is going to be to make sure that your well-being is intact, to make sure that your safety is first, and that's paramount. So, fellas, you got to sit down and help her understand if maybe you need to get an older sister to help her understand that. Maybe you need to get somebody that she respects, a man that's in her life. It could be her father, it could be her uncle, it could be her cousin, to make sure that she understands that you're governing and you're not controlling. When you govern something, that's two people sitting down, coming to a like-minded agreement. It's not you telling her to do it because you said so. That's when it can start getting into the controlling. So you also want to make sure, always want to make sure, fellas, that you're governing. But you need to sit down and have that conversation, because these things are going to come up and you're going to find yourself in a lot of discord and you're going to have a lot of arguments when you're not trying to be proactive and get in front of this stuff. Fellas, I get a lot of calls in the barbershop. We was in the barbershop and then we do the forums. They say she talks too much. Listen, fellas, she is a communicator. You're going to have to get some tools and some resources and understand. Just like when you see them, you see the talk shows, you see the, whatever you see on TV, you see the ladies like to do a lot of talking. So what we're going to have to do, fellas, is we're going to have to make sure we get those tools, make sure we get those skills to understand that is part of her nature. Now, so let's talk about the core nature of a woman, but we're going to use the talking piece. So I'm going to give you a metaphor. So let's say the crocodile hunter. Most people don't want to try to wrestle a crocodile or an alligator. That is kind of ridiculous. But then there is some people who can do it because they understand the nature of the alligator. They respect what the alligator is and how they operate. And then they're able to go and capture an alligator or wrestle the alligator and put him into submission or take him back and put him in the wild unharmed. So with that woman, we're using that metaphor to say to you, you might think she's as dangerous as an alligator, fellas. I know that bite and that bark is vicious at times. I know it is. Been there myself. But once you understand the nature of that woman and you understand that she's going to be a communicator and you put those tools and skills in place, then you'll understand, okay, she's going to have this, she's going to talk. She's going to be a communicator. You're going to have to find a way to deal with that and not let it be a problem and understand that's just her nature. So when you know that's her nature, and we know people who handle snakes. A lot of us don't like snakes. We don't want to be around them. But there are people who go in the wild and get snakes, or there are snake handlers. So maybe you might have a pool and you may have a snake in your pool. And there are people and professionals who have been trained about the nature of a snake. And it's very easy for them to subdue the snake, put the snake in a safe place, take him out of harm's way with you and maybe your family. And then maybe if they have to take him back into the wild, they can do that too. But that is because you have somebody who took the time out to get some tools and some resources and some skills to learn how to handle that snake. Now that is just understanding the core nature of something or somebody. So with the ladies, fellas, you have to understand the core nature. She could appear to be a snake sometimes. She could appear to bite as hard as an alligator sometimes. But if you equip yourself, if you take your time out, if you hone those skills, then you can understand their nature and respect it, and you can get along and have a beautiful, decent relationship with your woman. Ladies, a lot of times I get the calls, again, we back in the barbershop. She is too independent. Now, let's talk about independence. With a man, if you go back to the definition of a man, or you can go to the YouTube Clipperdome Chronicles page on YouTube, and you can understand what we say when we say man and woman, okay, what that is. A man is a protector and a provider. He is going to have a certain amount of authority in your life. He is going to govern. He will not control. Again, ladies, he is going to govern. He is not going to control. So now, when they say she's too independent, look up the definition of independence. I want you to Google this. I want you to research it and look at the word. It means without assistance, totally self-sufficient, with no help at all. That's what independence means. So if you're an independent woman and you're trying to be in a relationship with a man or a mature man, it's not going to work. That's oil and water. You can forget it. If you want to be an independent woman, you can do that. Get your money, sis. Climb that ladder, be the CEO, open up 100 million businesses, and make $100 billion. But I guarantee you, your money and your title is not going to change his kitchen. It's not going to change his bedroom. It's not going to change his living room. And it's not going to help him in the garage. That is not what he is looking for. That doesn't mean you should not do it. That just means be careful how you proceed. Because if you are independent and you are too independent in that relationship, then you're going to be in for a lot of discord. It's going to be a lot of problems coming your way soon. So let's watch that independent piece, because we have to understand the definition of that. So when we are together and we are like-minded and we have a goal and a plan, we want to reach that destination together. And independence means to stand alone. Ladies, we had that 30-man challenge. Y'all can go back and check that out again on the YouTube Clipperdome Chronicles page. Why do the good guys finish last or stay alone? Like, I watched the videos on YouTube like everybody else. The nice guys finish last. I heard the lady say that he gets boring. He's too nice. She don't really want to. Hey, Lisa, what's going on? He's too nice. He gets boring, and she doesn't keep his interest. So, fellas, let's cut into that a little bit. Let me give you a little bit of their nature, the core of a woman. Now, we can look at it in the wild kingdom, in the animal kingdom. So, say you're out in Africa. Usually, the loudest lion, the strongest lion, with the biggest mane, with the deepest voice, is going to be the one to get the lionesses. So it's not about him being a nice guy. The core of the woman is to be protected and provided for. She is going to be looking for that provision and that protection. So that's going to lead her to what we might call the bad boy, because usually he's louder. Usually he's coming off more strong, and usually he's coming off like he could protect her. So the core of her nature is to go be protected and provided for. So she may very well go cling on to that bad boy and make some bad decisions, not understanding his nature. Because his nature is not to protect and provide for her. It's to take advantage of her and get what he wants. Because a lot of times the bad boy is selfish. That doesn't mean he's not a man. That doesn't mean he can't be a good man. That just means that's not his ultimate goal. And until he gets to that point where he wants to make that his goal, then that's just pretty much where he's going to be. So her nature, fellas, the reason that the good guys may finish last or appear to finish last or may have seemed to be lonely is because her nature is going to bring her to the loudest, the strongest, and the one that looks like he could protect and provide. And that's usually that thug. That's usually the guy with the edge. That's usually the bad boy. So this is where that comes from. It's her core. So now we have to understand why she's doing that. So now all the good guys I know that was in the barbershop, I've been there for 30 years. I hold these forums. I say, ladies, they say, where can we meet the guys, Dennis? I say, come to the shop. I'm telling you, I don't know what this is. I had professionals in my shop. I took appointments only. I didn't have walk-ins. I didn't have everybody in my shop. My clients were professionals. And they got so tight that they started hanging out with each other. Their families started going out with one another. So my clientele became friends. That's how closely knit that was in my shop. But I could never get the ladies to come in and sit down and meet somebody. So with that being said, I don't know what a better place that I can have a controlled environment and specifically know this man and his family and his children where I can help this woman walk through this situation in this process. But I had only 3 of them show up in the last 30 years. So I don't know what that is. Maybe somebody can send in a comment. Maybe somebody can send in a question or give me a call, because I would be very interested to hear what y'all think about that out of 30 years, having that controlled environment where I couldn't get anybody. Hey, B Young, what's going on, big guy? Where I couldn't get any of the ladies to come from the forums. They were in my forums. They knew there were men there. They saw the conversation. They felt the energy. They wouldn't come to the shop to meet the men, but they always ask me, where can I meet the men? So I don't know what else to do. But again, I want y'all to give me a call or type in why you think the women didn't come from the forum to the barbershop to meet a man. I would be interested to hear that. So now we're going to move on. Some more parameters. We want to put some more parameters around these relationships because we don't have any boundaries, we don't have any goals, and we don't have any order. Today, we have a lot of overstimulation. When I say overstimulation, it can impede every point and process in your life. It can affect your love life, it can affect your work life, it can affect your family, and it can affect your religion. So being overstimulated is a huge problem because you can't multitask as well as you think you can. It's only so much that the brain can handle as far as processing when we're thinking about something from day to day. Oh, I think we got a caller?
Yes, we have a caller.
Okay, caller, go ahead. What's your name and where you calling from?
What's up, D? This is Kev, man. I'm calling from Nashville.
Hey, how you doing, sir? What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm beautiful. It was a good day.
Yes, sir, man. I just calling in on your. I hear you have this discussion about why you can't get women to come to the forums, come to the barbershop.
Yes, sir.
Man. And I just wanted to comment on that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think for me when I think of that, and this is just even targeted towards women or men, just people in general. A lot of times when we're faced with challenges that we can't overcome, it's because we also have to be accountable for our own actions. And I think if we're being transparent, and this isn't speaking for all women,
right?
But I think
yes,
in the case that you're speaking of, if women came to those forums and participated and took stock of what the men were saying and actually listened to the core and the nature of what the man is saying, it will force them to be accountable and reflect on what it is they're bringing to the table. So often we hear there's no good men out here, there's no good men, there's no good men, or even if a relationship dissolves or ends, the first thing that we hear is, what did he do?
Right.
Like it always matches. No matter.
Right.
I know in my own personal life, when I end up in a relationship, it's always, what did you do? Because it's almost like the woman, in my experience, doesn't always have to be accountable for what happens in the relationship. So I think a lot of times what happens is that they're not coming because it's going to force them to be accountable and take stock and reflect on what they're doing that may be causing them to attract a certain caliber of men that they're claiming not to want.
Okay, so he left, and I wanted to catch him before he went off. I can't go into that. He is a very integral part of what I do. He has been to all of the forums, most of the men's forums. When I was in town, if I left town, he couldn't make those, but he's been to the majority of them, like 95%. So he sees it, he touched, tasted, and felt it. He totally understands it inside and out for over the last 10 years. So now, ladies, we do this to compliment. We do not do this to compete. This is not a competition. The Clipperdome Chronicles is a research base. We do not want to compete, pit men and women against each other. That's not what I do. That's not what we do here. So when we're talking about a specific, the ladies or the fellas or the man or the woman, this is not an attack. This is an observation based off of research. This is not a judgment. So when I say observation, we're just going to take the facts and we're going to take the point and we're going to go to the core and we're going to put it out here to see if we can get some better solutions. So now, of course, when you judge in something, when you judge, that's a competition. In a judgment, somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. And that's not what we're trying to do. Now, Steve just typed in something. He said women don't go to the barbershop because it's a man's job to take his son. And that, if there's a father around. So now, Steve, that's a good observation right there. So now, what I was doing though, Steve, is when I held my forums, we had men and women there. So the women that were at my forums, they said, where can they meet men at? So they didn't necessarily try to come there to bring their sons, more so than they were trying to, get a date or meet somebody. So I was letting them know that I know these group of professionals. I know these men personally. Most of them has been for years. Again, I've been to their homes. I know, their mothers and fathers. I've been to the barbecues, the picnics. I've been to their jobs, so I know these men well. And I was just trying to figure out how can we get the sisters to come on out and participate in that and come and meet a real man, on that level. Because I know guys that make six figures, real nice guys, but they by themselves because they are the nice guy, because they may come off as being too boring. So yeah, thanks, Steve, for that comment. I appreciate you. So that we're going to get back to that overstimulation piece. When we are overstimulated, how many times have we looked around for our keys and they were in our pockets, right? How many times did we say, okay, I'm finna go in here and jump in the shower, but then the phone goes off? So then after you had that phone call, then you still want to jump in the shower, but then you get this text message. You start text messaging. Oh, okay. All right. Now, my niece just said, thanks, Londa, for that. She said a group of men can be intimidating. Now, see, I got you. Now, we can solve that problem as well. Because what I could have done was most of those men that came to the to the forums, they were in the barbershop. So they had an opportunity at the forum to still meet the brother there as well. So a lot of times if a sister saw something she liked, somebody she liked, I would say, hey, okay, I know this guy. So I can kind of make sure that he understands that, so I can make it to where y'all can meet and they can, have a meet and greet and get together at the shop, so it wouldn't be so intimidating. Maybe when I open or maybe when I close, we could do that. There's ways around that, but yeah, Londa, I thank you for that. Yeah, I can see that. I can see how that could happen. Okay, now Londa, I'm gonna ask you this: do you think that it would be intimidating at the forums to meet a man as well as the barbershop, or is that energy different? Type that. Let me see what you think. Okay, but back to, hey, Will, what's going on, big guy? The overstimulation piece is we can only process so much information in so much time. So like I was saying before, if you wanted to take a shower and then the phone rang, and that phone call could take 15 minutes to an hour. So then when you get off the phone, then we can get a text message. So, texting, depending on how fast you type, that could be from 5 minutes to 20 minutes, however you're doing that. So then once you get off that text message, then you could go check your email. So once you check the email, here we go again. 5 minutes to an hour, depending on what you're trying to do with that email or what it all entails, if it's business or personal. So then after you do the email, then you can get an alert from a Facebook, get an alert from a Snapchat, get an alert from this Instagram. So this overstimulation, you have to be careful about inputting information, because the world and the universe is set up off of duality. When you continue to input and keep inputting and you don't output at the same amount, the same rate, or the same amount, then it's going to become imbalanced within. That's why a lot of people today, everybody is so busy doing nothing and going nowhere. Okay? Now, when I'm saying that, that's not to hate on anybody. That's not to downplay or downrate what you're doing, because I have done it myself. I've had this plethora of things to do. I had 100 million things on my list, and I ended up just doing 1 or 2 of them because I was exhausted mentally, trying to figure out how I was going to accomplish all these goals and get all these things done. Okay, we got to, okay, Steve said, there's no disrespect towards women at a barbershop. He gets to go towards women and just respect them. So he says no disrespect towards women at the barbershop he goes to. Okay, there's no disrespect there, right? So Steve, so the barbershop gets a bad rap when it comes to environments for women, because you do have someone with the pool table, they are gambling in the back, or they could be watching some inappropriate stuff on TV or on the radio. Those are barbershops. But then you have professional establishments. Like mine's, I didn't take walk-ins. Everybody that came in my shop pretty much was a business owner or a professional, okay, for the most part. So that was my environment. And there are a lot of environments like that, Steve. So, but women are usually thinking that it's going to be inappropriate. I didn't allow cussing in my barbershop. Okay, so wait. When it's just a fella, Steve, we did that. We did what we do. But when a woman walked in there, they knew automatically. It was nothing I had to say. They knew there was time out for that. Because I had sometimes, a grandmother could drop off her grandchild. So I knew that when she put her faith and trust in me, she'll pull off and go to the grocery store and leave her grandchild in my care. So for me, that was huge, that somebody would trust me like that. So no disrespect ever in my barbershop, Steve. So yeah, that's a good comment on that one. Londa, okay. I asked my niece, do she think that it would be okay to meet somebody at the forum or the barbershop, which might be better? She says she believes that the energy would be different in the forum because the conversations. She's saying the conversations that she's been in the barbershop, the men were loud and talking down on women. Yes, see, again, Lana, while you were typing, I think you heard that. So you have a barbershop, and then you have a professional establishment where gentlemen sit down and have conversations. So I stopped cutting hair like the last 15 years of my career because a lot of men came in there and they were imparting so much wisdom, and they were giving me so much wisdom, and I was giving them the wisdom that was being handed to me, and that's how we got here today. So I stopped cutting hair, and it turned into a university. This good brother, his name is Harry. He told me, he said he went and got his master's degree. He said he learned more in my barbershop than he did at his university. So that was a huge compliment to me because we have had some very in-depth conversations. I've had conversations where I've had an atheist, a Muslim, a Christian bishop, a Seventh-day Adventist, and a Jehovah's Witness, a drug dealer, and a stick-up man, all in my barbershop at the same time. Now you have to understand and navigate a conversation like that with that group of people is I've had some practice, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just say, facilitating those conversations and having to help people get out of there quick because it got heated. So you had to learn how to navigate those waters and facilitate those conversations. I think that's what helped me with my forums. So it's really, really a wealth of information. I'm telling you not to downgrade, education, formal education. But if you could get the right barbershop, I have so much wisdom that comes through there from like age 95 down to 12. Some brilliant young men, some brilliant elders. And when I get that good mix in that barbershop, it's just that conversation is, I don't even have words to be able to articulate or put to it. It's a lot. It's a culture, So that overstimulation, meaning we can only process so much information at a given time. I forget specifically, I got to have that in the research. How many things can we process in a given amount of time? So this warp speed that we're living at in this technological age, how fast things come at us. We don't get time to respond because it's coming so quick. You could miss, half of your day very, very easily just dealing with a few items because things are coming so fast. So that was like some of our staples in our relationships because we need to put some parameters around what we're doing. We need to just stop coming from the hip. We need to start getting some more tools and resources. We need to understand the nature of that man and the nature of that woman so that we won't call things problems that are just natural. Because women are going to talk, fellas. Ladies, the man is going to be an authoritative figure to a certain degree. That doesn't mean he can control you. That just means he's going to try to help govern in your life. We went over the man and the woman, who they are, so that when people are having discussions, you still can be with a 60-year-old boy. You can be with a 60-year-old little girl, based off of the definition. The YouTube Clipperdome Chronicles page. We have a lot of videos there. So we have things, we're talking about the surface and the core conversations. That's video number 18. Living above correction is a huge one. That's video number 11. When we say living above correction, it's like are you too grown? Are you too smart? Are you too educated? Are you too full of yourself for somebody to tell you when you're wrong? No matter what age you get to, you will never know everything and you will never have all of the experiences. So be careful about living above correction. Uh, Steve said, he said he wanted to make an appointment to get a haircut. So I guess I got to come. I think you in Atlanta, Steve. I might have to take a trip. It take me a little while to get to you. We can make it happen, bro. So power versus possessions is another good one on the YouTube Clipperdome Chronicles page. That's where the woman, I talk about her trading in her power versus a possession. Power meaning what my grandmother had. When my grandmother called my family together, when she said something, she was heard. And after she was heard, it was done. Now, and this is not a downplay to the sisters, they have possessions now. They are more wealthy than the generation before, the women before, maybe of all generations. But now I ask the sisters today, can you sit down? Call your family together because you said so, and they show up because you want them there. Or do you have these items, the 4,000 square foot house with the Mercedes-Benz and the BMW in the garage? So that's just trying to weigh if we could take a look at having power over possessions. So with that video, I got an interesting call. There was a sister, she was dead on. She said, why do I have to choose? Well, I would say there's probably very few women that I have seen or that I have studied who can have them both. To have power, that's when you get with the family. That's when you're dealing more with yourself, the individuals in the community. Because to get the possessions, those are usually the more educated women. So if they're getting an education, they're probably going to spend 20 to 25 years at least gaining an education. So that's time where they're not creating the power. Now you can have them both. But when she asked me why she had to choose, I was just putting that out there because the majority of women, which we're talking about the majority most of the time with our statistics and our research, the majority of the women can't do it. And we got checking your own paper. That's video number 26. Now, that video, that one is deep, family. That's on the YouTube Clipperdome Chronicles page. That video 26, when I say don't check your own paper, y'all remember we was in school, and the teacher gave us a quiz, or she gave us a test, and we took that. She said, well, you could check your own paper. She said, don't turn it in. Hold it, check your own paper. So sometimes when we check it on paper, we know in our hearts and our minds, we knew the answer, but we wrote down the wrong thing. So we kind of erased it or we changed that knowing that that wasn't our original answer. Everybody, when they check it on paper, they get a good score, right? Most of us did. Okay, we all did it. So now when we give that paper to the teacher, you get those red marks, right? So now you study for that test. You thought you was good. You took that test and you saw those red marks on there and you was trying to figure out how did you get there. Well, you studied so hard. You know, you should have got a better grade on that test. So when we say checking your own paper, because you coming from what you think, what you see, your perception, you coming from your heart, how you feel. But then when somebody else is checking that paper, we have to do that in our relationships. So the ladies, you could think that you're fine. You could think that you're virtuous. You could think that you're intelligent. But guess what? You got to hand him that paper. And he going to put some marks on it. And vice versa, fellas. You're going to think you're strong. You're going to think you got it going on. You got the swag. You think you got the mouthpiece. But she's going to assess that. She's going to get that paper. And there's going to be some marks on there. And I don't think you're going to like all of them. So be careful when you checking that paper. Be careful doing that. I don't know if we went over. I think we got that. So video number 4 on the YouTube Clipperdome Chronicles page. The perception versus reality. This is one that gets us in trouble in a lot of our relationships all the time. When I say perception versus reality, say we at Ohio State, the football stadium. We hold 110,000 people in this one stadium. You got 105,000 people on one side and 105,000 people on the opposing side, right? They see the same play. The ref make the call. How can 105,000 people on this side see something different than the 105,000 people on the other side? It's the same play. They all saw the same play. And they got a different perception of what that is. Now, the reality of that situation is some people might have more knowledge about the game. So they're going to make a call from that perspective. Some people may be on the booster club. So no matter what they see, their perception is going to be they want their team to win. But we all have that perception, but the reality doesn't change. It's just the way that we see it. It's like if we went to the optometrist, perception versus reality. When you go to the optometrist, some of us wear glasses. You look at the board. They have numbers, and then they have letters on the board. Every time the doctor clicks that lens, okay, your vision could become clearer or it could become more blurry. Now, the thing that doesn't change, the perception changes with the lens, okay? But what doesn't change is the reality of what's on that board. Those letters and numbers are going to stay consistent, and they're going to always be there, okay? So that's the perception versus reality. Your perception is what you think you see, and it's versus what's actually there. So in our relationships, sometimes we might get a young lady who really think the young man is into her. She wants this relationship. She may want to get married. So she's going in hard. She's doing everything she got to do because her perception is she wants to get married. She thinks this guy's into her. She thinks they can do this thing, so they get together. But the reality might be he may not really want to date her seriously. He might just want to have a little fun, go out on a date and do, just to keep it light. So her perception and the reality could be two very different things. Same thing with the fellas. I've been there myself. I thought that we had a good thing. I thought me and the young lady had it going on. I could see this going somewhere. But she had a different agenda. So when I found out what the reality of the situation was, it was different from my perception. So that perception versus reality, we need to be careful walking down that road. So I think that's going to wrap it up for us, family. We want you to take this. We want you to test this. We want you to try this. We want you to take it to the barbershop or take it to the hair salon. Take it to the job or take it to the church. Remember, you don't have to like it, believe it, or understand it. Sometimes you just got to respect it. This is the Clipperdome Chronicles. Thank you.